Hello, I'm Beverly Childs, Executive Director of the Anderson County Museum. Today I'm standing beside the bronze bust of Professor Carroll Frederick Reames. Mr. Reames served Anderson County for 41 years as a mentor, coach, teacher, and principal of Boys High School and then of Lakeside Junior High. One cannot talk about the history of education in Anderson County without the name Frog Reames being mentioned. His influence expands not only to the students he guided, but to generations beyond through the life lessons he taught his boys. It is impossible to find a former student that would not describe Mr. Reames as one of the most influential people in their life. In 2015, Mr. Reames' boys, called Frog's Boys, started a fundraising campaign for a bronze of him to honor his legacy. Today, we proudly display that bronze bust outside the education exhibit by the book. We invited a few of Frog's boys to drop by and talk about their remembrances of Mr. Reames.
Well, I'm Bill Land. I am one of Frog's boys. And being one of Frog's boys meant that you were loved by him, that you were appreciated by him, and he wanted you to be the best that you can.
Good morning. I'm Henry Jordan, the local general surgeon here in Anderson. I grew up in Anderson. I was in the last class at Boys High School when the boys and girls got put back together.
Hello, my name is Barry Grayson. I was a student at Anderson Boys High School from 1958 to 1961, graduating in the class of 1961, which is the next to the last graduating class of the high school.
I'm my daddy's girl. And the reason I'm here today at the age of 86 is to tell you that he is still proud of all his boys, and I throw kisses instead of licks on your.
He first came to Anderson in 1928 to serve as football coach and athletic director. He stayed in this capacity until 1938 when he left the school system and went to work with a hospital. For what reason, we don't know, but anyway, he went to work with the hospital. And he worked with the hospital until 1938. 1938, the principal at then Boys High School, Mr. J.C. Turner, who was in the reserves, got called up because of the war. Mr. Reames was asked to come back to serve as principal, and it was a job that he never relinquished. He stayed there from 1938 until 1962 when the school was closed.
The boys would call their professors Fessor. That was, instead of saying professor, we'd say like Fessor Bowman, Fessor Hall, Fessor Reames.
I was raised by Mr. Carroll F. Frog Reames, outstanding man in every manner, and we loved him. When I came back to Anderson in 1982, he called me on the phone and we went out to lunch together about once a month for years and had a great time reminiscing and talking things over.
My experience there for the whole 3 years, one thing that we learned about Professor Reames was that he truly cared about his boys. He cared that they got an education. He cared that they were not only got an education, but were prepared for life. I saw him do many things over the years I was there to keep the boys in line and to keep them learning for their future, for what they need.
While serving as principal of Boys High School, Mr. Reames lost his son due to leukemia. And then all the boys at Boys High became his boys.
He did two important things. He enforced discipline, number one, which we all secretly admired. I got paddled by him twice. I swore after the second time I was never going to get that again. I thought I was going to pass out. But the other thing he did is he recruited an outstanding faculty.
But my years at Boys High School, I wouldn't trade them for anything. We learned so much about life and about how to live, and it's all attributed to Mr. Reames' leadership, and I couldn't have hoped for a better principal.
Well, two things that Mr. Reames really believed in was education and discipline. He was thought that you couldn't learn if you didn't go by the rules.
Had a knack of knowing what you needed to advance you, and I remember once he said that that I needed to learn how to speak. So he gave me an oration to do, and I had to learn this oration, memorize it, and present it in front of the whole Boys High School class.
He was quite an athlete, and he could jump from side to side and dodge the tacklers, and he got nicknamed by his classmates Frog because he looked like a frog jumping around, and it stuck. But we never ever called him Frog, except behind his back.
Many boys finished school simply because of Mr. Reames. Many of them wanted to go to college, but felt like they didn't have the means to go to college. So Mr. Reames, somehow those funds became available.
There was something funny that happened every day at Boys High School. My best friend and I got in a fight. And I'll tell you how important it is. I don't remember what it was about. But anyway, and you all get spanked. If you get in a fight, he takes you down to his office and wears you out with the Board of Education. And he really got me that time.
And I can tell you stories about other students that I know of that he always instinctively knew, maybe it's because of his 30 years experience by the time I got there, what the boys needed, and he would always help them. And matter of fact, I know a lot of stories of some boys who he knew needed to go to college but couldn't afford it, and he got them scholarships. He knew that some needed jobs to be able to keep going to school, and he would get them jobs so they could go to school. And in some cases, he would even work out their schedule so they could go to school and work.
Probably knew the name of most every boy in that school and their parents' name and what sort of family situation they had. The reason is he cared about people. That was his goal in life.
And I don't know how he did it with over 700 students each year, but he always was aware of what was going on. We did get away with some pranks, and I think he expected it, and he acted mad, but I don't really think he was. And
He gave me a call right before they destroyed Boys High School, and he said, "Henry, we're going to do a last walkthrough the old Boys High School before they tear it down. I'm going to do it on Wednesday about 10 o'clock in the morning. We're going to have a little lunch. Would you like to come?" I said, "Yes, sir, I would. I'll be there." So he stood up on stage for about 45 minutes and told stories about different boys and things they'd done. And they were all funny stories. And when he got through, I said, "Mr. Reames, do you remember when somebody put a cherry bomb in one of the lockers and they anchored it to a little candle and lit the candle and left? And about 15 or 20 minutes later, it blew the door off the locker. And you appointed him, he was chairman, president of the student body, said you appointed him to find the person that did it. And of course, they never found the person. And he thought that was the funniest thing he had ever heard. But he might have gone by Olin's house and after that, but Olin had already moved up to Connecticut. It was
See, he wasn't just a football coach. He wasn't just an educator. He wasn't just a disciplinarian. He was a friend. In fact, Carroll Frederick Reames was Boys High, and that is why this bus is here today. He is a part of Anderson's history.
Thank you for joining us today. Please check out our website, andersoncountymuseum.org, or our social media pages for more information on the museum and gallery hours.